Now, a lot of you don't know this about me, you're not aware of this, but I actually really enjoy reality television. This is something that I like to watch with my fiance because essentially what you're watching is like a funhouse mirror version of people. They're going on television likely to increase their levels of fame, looking for their 15 minutes, and this causes them to act in very weird, very odd ways, which are great for our entertainment. Now, I am aware that reality TV is heavily edited, and there's all sorts of techniques that are used by production in order to get the narrative that they want to tell throughout the course of the series. One of the things that you might not know is that if you sign up for a reality TV show, one of the things that they force you to do is maintain your haircut and your style in general as much as possible so that they can edit you out of continuity in order to paint the story that they want to tell. So they'll film a show over the course of months, but you might likely see early on in the show stuff from month 2 splice into day 1 of the show in order for them to make the narrative that they're trying to make. So it is very deceptive by its very nature. One need only look at any of the leaked contracts of the reality shows to understand that, but also the people are incredibly sketchy because reality TV shows work in some very interesting ways. There's season 1 where people don't really know how to be on television. They're signing up for something that has a relatively new premise, and this is where you get some of the most awkward and crazy interactions between people. However, once the show becomes a hit, once it becomes a phenomenon, all of a sudden you see these people coming on that know how the show works. So they manufacture drama, and they're clearly trying to increase their profile, not look as bad as possible, and essentially paint other people as the villains in their story in the hopes that they get a good edit. And what we're going to talk about today is season 3 of Love is Blind, because what we see in this show is a perfect example of that. Now, before we get into this, I have a sponsor, so I'm going to toss it to the sponsor, and then we'll discuss all of this on the other side. Have you heard of diet resistance? Well, this is a phenomenon that occurs because your metabolism really starts to slow down as you age, specifically when you get over the age of 35. But luckily for you, I have a bit of a cheat code for you. I have something that will aid you in your journey with the keto diet, and that, of course, is Keto with Justice. This amazing keto powder can help you, as it's helped thousands of people lose weight faster and get that off by prolonging a state known as ketosis. And the great thing about Keto with Justice is that you could actually try this powder for 60 days risk-free, and if you're not satisfied, send it back. Go over to ketowithjustice.com right now, and you could get it at 51% off. That's ketowithjustice.com, ketowithjustice.com. Now, for those of you who don't know, Love is Blind is a show that essentially matches people up who want to get married based on interactions that they have in what they call pods, where they can talk to one another, but not actually see each other. So the idea is you're trying to fall in love with somebody that over the course of 10 days, by the way, you talk to without ever knowing what they look like. And this show in season 1 actually had some very wholesome love tales. It had some awkward moments for sure, but essentially what they did for season 1 was load up the cast with attractive and successful people, have them talk in the pods, and then when they matched up, they mostly became successful, although definitely with an asterisk of not all. And you could just look at the cast and the couples from season 1, and you can look at their careers and understand that this was clearly skewed in such a way to produce the optimum results. One of the guys that was actually in season 1 worked in robotics, so a high-end STEM career, but was also a volunteer firefighter, so he was in excellent shape. Needless to say, when you come out of talking to this person and connecting with him emotionally, and you see this tall, in-shape, handsome man with a very successful career, you're likely gonna get on board, and that's likely going to be conducive to producing positive results. And they actually got a ton of criticism for this. So what you saw in season 2 and season 3 was less glamorous looking people, less glamorous looking jobs, and as a result of this, what you ended up seeing was a higher divorce rate, aka 100% in the divorce rate from season 2. And in season 2, you also had some very shady people that were clearly trying to look their absolute best or present themselves as super talented in order to be on TV, just like this guy, Sal, who would go out and play music all the time and try to get attention, although the girl that he was with was also trying to one-up on him. So you had a bunch of forced, awkward, and cringy reactions between the two. Now, each and every season has the dumb, boring couple that you know are going to say yes at the end of it, but everybody else is up in the air. But then we moved from season 2 to season 3, and season 3 was a case study in a bunch of different things, just like seasons 1 and 2, which is how older women who are single in their 30s actually behave in such a way that makes you understand over the course of time why they're single. And this season was especially bad. The couples were especially terrible as matches, except for one. And there was one specific couple that actually was going to be a disaster, and one of the people were hated from the editing, although that completely turned around once you got into the later episodes.
Yeah, man, it hurts. Yeah, I guess it's a good moment for that. It's okay, don't do it.
If your eyes are hurting you,
Yeah.
I don't mean...
But just to give you a recap of the cringe, you had this Asian guy quite literally put eye drops in his eyes after he was rejected by somebody in order to fake tears, and Netflix ended up burying him by showing the entire video of him doing this in order to have tears.
I never thought I could care for someone that would bring me to tears.
Haha, very funny. You guys all get to laugh at the cringe of somebody who can't fake tears and thought he was going to get a favorable edit from the cameras, but absolutely did not. And then you have the couple. So there's the boring couple. We're not going to talk about them. They seem like a relatively nice match, and they're married at this point in time. Spoiler alert. So I'm happy for them. But then there's the couples, which are 31-year-old women matched up with 25-year-old dudes. And of course, these ended up being the most disastrous of all the relationships. First and foremost, you had this guy, who is the worst guy ever, repeatedly telling people that he did not find his wife attractive, telling his wife that he didn't find her attractive, and telling her that he found another girl on the show much more attractive.
How was it talking to her?
Talking to Raven, it was good. And seeing her in the flesh, it makes sense. Like, gorgeous girl. I told her this. I was like, listen, like, on paper, me and you make sense. You're gorgeous. You're fit. Like, we look good to the naked eye. If you were to look at Raven, look at me, and we're at a bar, we're at a restaurant, that would make sense.
Now, watching this couple was essentially like watching a car crash in slow motion, because you have Nancy, who seems like a nice enough gal, the 31-year-old woman who has a 25-year-old who has repeatedly told her that he's not attracted to her, essentially fall fully into delusion, thinking it's all going to work out, despite the fact that she's at a completely different place from this person in her life, and he's doing everything in his power to convince her to break up with him.
If we held a wedding right here, right now, what do you think the answer would be?
Yes.
Yeah. Your answer right now would be yes? Really? Even though we've never gone through any challenges?
Yes.
You don't know how I handle any conflict. You're going to jump into this as open as we can.
Sign me up. I'm good.
Sign you up.
I mean, when a guy tells you over and over and over and over again that he finds another woman more attractive than you, and figures out ways to pick fights with you, and figures out ways to find problems in order to make situations more awkward, it is clear and obvious that he's going to say no to you, that he doesn't want to be married to you, that he's not attracted to you. But yet Nancy, trying to be the winner in this exchange in the minds of the audience, essentially played the delusional idiot throughout the whole course of this series. Now, I don't know how much of her delusional idiocy is actually real, but it was really sad to watch this woman, who's 31 years old, actually owns a bunch of properties, should have probably settled down years before, essentially say no matter what this person told her, even though there were obvious red flags, that she believed in the relationship and she thought it was going to work out. I mean, there was a point where they had a discussion related to abortion, and this guy really hammed up the fact that he didn't believe in her abortion position. Now, it wasn't the fact that he was pro-life. He actually has an absolutely ridiculous position when you think about the logic, because he essentially made the argument that he's pro-choice, but only one time if you're a teenager and you make a mistake, and therefore, after that, he's not into it.
My stance on that is like, if it's unplanned and you're like youthful and still learning, I think you can get one pass.
And then after they had this argument, which is obviously tied to not only his values and her values and his family's values, he decided to bring this up specifically when they met the parents in order to get the parents to turn against her, because he was really trying his absolute best to make Nancy pull the plug on the relationship, although that never worked out for him, and he eventually had to say no so that he could be the bad guy. And I will give credit to Nancy's family, because the brother seemed like he wanted to stab this guy, and he knew he was a fraud, and the mother, like many Hispanic mothers, wanted to be the center of attention. But yeah, this was an absolute disaster, and much of the hate of the show should be directed to one Bartiz. However, a lot of it was directed towards Cole and his relationship with Zanab. Now, while everything about Bartiz screamed fake, while everything about him screamed, I'm a bad guy here for fame and not trying to get married to anybody. I mean, he quite literally told his short Latin American fiance that he was only attracted to tall, attractive blonde women, and obviously, since she was not that, that was an obvious hint. A lot of the season's hatred was directed toward one Cole. In fact, I would say for 10 of the 11 or 12 episodes, counting the reunion, most people thought that Cole was one of the biggest scumbags of the show, because Cole had awkward moments where he would tell his fiancée that she was a 9 out of 10, but 2 other girls were actually 10 out of 10.
And then I asked you to rate me.
I was like, you're a 9 out of 10.
Uh-huh.
And then you were like, is there anyone here who you think is a 10 out of 10? I was just like,
Yeah, Colleen.
I was like, maybe one person. Which,
No, you said 2 people.
Stop.
Raven and Colleen, which, like, I mean, come on, duh. But still, though.
Now, again, as somebody who's watching this from home, and I'm seeing a 25-year-old young, attractive dude with his whole life in front of him, dating a 31-year-old woman who has a whole bunch of baggage that leads her to be single at age 31 on a reality TV show, I thought, like in the other couple, that this clearly and obviously wasn't going to work out. And the way that the edit was cut made Cole look like an absolutely immature and bad person, although, in my opinion, he was not portrayed as bad as the other guy that we were talking about. However, the clips of him were quite cringe, and they were played up a lot in order to paint him as the villain throughout the majority of the series. However, things started to change a little bit when you could see some of Zanab's manipulation and some of her bad tactics and bad faith actions throughout the course of the show. A perfect example of this is when Cole was making dinner for her, and she came in with all the criticism of the world, and you could tell that this young guy, who honestly might be more idiot than manipulative, was trying to impress her, and she just was not having it. I'm going to play a little bit of that interaction with you so you could see the worm turn a little bit.
Have a stemmed glass?
Yeah.
Please. Thank you. So, fun fact, you put white wine in a stemmed glass because a hand around this warms it up. So you drink white in a stem so you don't touch it. Right. You started the chicken early. Aren't the potato fries going to take ages? What are you doing to this chicken?
You looking for this?
Yeah, why aren't you holding it where the raw bit is?
You've been hired.
This was meant to be you cooking for me, babe.
What do you
Thanks
cook?
for cooking, babe. I tell you I don't like Brussels sprouts, so I'll have like a couple.
Let me know if you like these.
Now look, I've cooked for many women in my lifetime, and one of those women, at one point, was getting hypercritical of what I was doing while I was doing it, and needless to say, the relationship with that person did not continue. Even after I ended up producing the food, and she ended up loving it, the fact that she was nagging at me during the course of my cooking really bothered me, because you're trying to do something nice for somebody, and you're getting the hypercritical nature for them. In fact, one time when my fiance, my current fiance, the person that I'm engaged to right now, was cooking for me, and this was back when she was my girlfriend, I was asking her questions, and she felt like the questions I was asking her were more critical, when in reality, I was just trying to know what she was doing, because my fiance is an excellent cook. yes, you should be jealous. Yes, that article from the New York Post about women cuddling with teddy bears is due to the fact that I'm actually engaged and women aren't taking it well. But yeah, so I can understand this interaction from both sides of it and how it can be quite annoying, even though you might not intend it. However, I will say this Zanab girl definitely seemed like she was being hypercritical just because she was kind of like a little bit of a nasty person. She had a lot of baggage. However, it goes much, much further than this, because throughout the whole course of the series, she is edited to be the victim and Cole is portrayed to be one of the ultimate villains, despite the fact that time and time again, he seems like he's trying to win her over, only to have that situation undermined by her bad attitude, by the baggage that she brought in. And looking back, you can see that even some of the worst interactions that they had that made Cole look the worst were actually recontextualized by later events. Now, the premise of Love is Blind, if you guys are unaware, is that they will go to the altar and essentially make the decision whether or not to marry somebody or not marry them in front of their families, in front of the cameras at the altar. And for most of the cases, we ended up seeing the result that we expected. The boring couple that actually seemed to work, and I'm calling them boring because they seem to work, ended up getting married. The one where the guy looked like he was taking the girl hostage also got married, which by the way was incredibly awkward. Just look at this woman's face during the reunion, and by the way, the whole time during the reunion, he seemed to be talking directly into her ear. It made me uncomfortable. It should make you uncomfortable by watching it. Somebody send out a search party for Colleen. I don't think things are going well for her. But then came the wedding between Cole and Zanab, and when Zanab came up on the stage, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, at the wedding in front of his friends, she decided to unload on him. She totally tore into him in front of everybody in what seemed to be a calculated attack in order to humiliate this person.
As much as I have wanted it to be me and have tried to manipulate myself to be that person for you, the last 2 months have not been like picture perfect. You have disrespected me. You have insulted me. You have critiqued me, and for what it is worth, you have single-handedly shattered my self-confidence. And I hate that you have had that kind of effect on me. And the messed up thing is that I know I love you. I know I love you, but everything in me and the logical part of my brain tells me that love shouldn't feel this way. Love shouldn't hurt like this.
And post her unloading on him, she ended up having people on her side clap for her, making it seem like she planned this out with her close friends, and they all marched out in unison behind their girl. Now this yes queen moment, this slay girl kind of situation, ended up being shot and edited in such a way that it was supposed to make Zanab look like a hero, finally standing up to the bad man that had been destroying her confidence and all this throughout. However, Cole's reaction, which was absolute shock and being stunned, really started to turn the worm for a lot of people on him, making him seem far more sympathetic, because in reality, if she had all of these problems with him, why would she tell him for the first time at the altar in such a coordinated and planned out way in order to maximize the impact? This seemed like a very petty, cold, calculated maneuver, and things only got worse during the course of the reunion, because what you saw during the course of the reunion was the fact that Zanab had essentially poisoned the other members of the cast against Cole in order to make him out to be the absolute villain.
No, it's hard because I think Zay is such an incredible woman.
Cole, do you know what Alexa's talking about when she says that we don't know?
I'll just say it. It was the tangerine thing.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, seriously need all this tangerine.
Literally never happened.
Cole, it's great. I'm a liar. I'm bipolar. Like, your words to me do not do anything for or to me anymore. They don't. They did. Back then, they did.
Say, I'm not the one trying to hurt you right now. You're making up a story.
The truth. You can start with that.
Why do you hate me, Nancy? What did I do?
Because Zanab is my girl, and everything that I know happens behind closed doors. Like,
that you
it's
don't
not
know
shown
that
on
happened.
there.
And this young 25-year-old immature person looked like he got hit by a bus that he wasn't looking for, because he had no way to deal with this.
How confusing is that? That if I was this horrible the whole way through, but on the day of our wedding, you still care about me. But I've already destroyed your self-confidence. I've already done all these things. And like, why were you there? Like, that's what I'm saying, Zay.
'Cause
Like,
I wanted
because I
to-
wasn't treating like
I
that.
wanted-
You know I was doing my best to work things out with you.
And you saw a 25-year-old man completely break down emotionally, talk about how he feels like he's being lied to or gaslit or something because he never got this version of this person until the altar.
I didn't understand our wedding day. Like, it didn't make sense to me in any way. I was like, how do we get that from, like, everything you and I had gone through? And that's why I never texted you. Because I was just like, I'm going to go bury myself in work and just not ever date anyone again. Because that was hell.
And then all of a sudden, after the episode airs,
I could have dragged you. I could have dragged you for everything.
she keeps hitting him over and over and over again, trying to destroy his reputation as a man in order to elevate herself as a victim in order to gain praise from social media, from everybody who that Yas Queen moment was aimed after. And that leads us to the cuties controversy.
People had known things that had happened, like the trying to control what I ate and me changing my eating habits. People, a couple of my friends knew. They were COVID
Sorry,
testing.
he did that?
Okay. Yeah, it was.
That's hilarious. I never once cared about what you ate. What are you talking about?
I stopped eating. I was eating like a banana and a teaspoon of peanut butter just so I wouldn't like pass out on the long days we were filming. The cutie story that didn't make the cut.
And who would have thought that Netflix, the streaming service that was basically the beginning of all the streaming services, the thing that killed Blockbuster, would end up having a controversy over cuties? Not me, not you, not anybody out there online, but essentially the way this broke down, and I will play it for you because it actually comes from another castmate, is that Zanab said that she was going to eat 2 cuties, and Cole told her in a very nasty way that she shouldn't be eating that because he wanted her skinny, and this helped destroy her confidence.
Was one day, it was like 2 p.m. We were still filming. I hadn't had a chance to eat, so I grabbed 2 cuties, like little tiny oranges that fit in the palm of your hand. And he looked at me and he goes, "Are you going to eat both of those?" And I said, "Well, like, yeah, that's a serving." And he goes, "Well, we're going out to eat later. Like, maybe you should save your appetite."
Oh my God. I cannot believe that you would say that, Zay.
And this was a whole thing, and Cole did not remember this interaction, but Zanab had not only remembered it, but she had told multiple different people, and this is one of the reasons why the cast was almost completely turned on Cole during the reunion, because obviously, if you have a woman who's a reasonably attractive woman, who is saying that this guy was trying to control her body, was attacking her for her image, was doing all these horrible things, you're likely going to be on this person's side. And nobody learns the lessons from the Amber Heard trial, obviously, and they end up believing the woman, and based on what was presented to us throughout the whole course of the series, you could actually believe that Cole was not this great person, that Cole didn't know how to be in a relationship, and maybe Cole took it one step further and was actually an abusive kind of partner, at least emotionally abusive. But the thing is that as this exchange went on, I started to feel like Cole was getting the raw end of the deal. You had somebody who seemed to be very cold, very calculated, who in advance poisoned the entire cast against one person, and this guy who's coming off as really genuine and not able to fight back. Obviously, one of these people looks like they're coached by a PR team, and the other one looks like they're reacting to everything on the spot, and that is not doing him any favors in terms of how he's perceived, because he doesn't really have a good defense, and while one person is being very cold and calculating and very precise, he just seems to be emotionally all over the place.
And then I watch it, I'm like, yeah, I'm a dumbass. Like, what was I saying? I'm like, I don't even know the context. Like, it doesn't matter what the context is. Like, I said some stupid things, and I'm really sorry. So I understand where you're coming from now, and I was somehow not seeing that I was doing those things.
I know you're sorry, but I forgave you a long time ago.
Why am I crying? Damn it.
So this is probably as bad as it gets right here. He's saying the whole entire time he doesn't remember these interactions, he doesn't think he came off this way, and she has told so many people and repeated this story so many times, and she says it with such confidence that he is now apologizing and saying, I guess I didn't realize I was doing it, thus accepting her framing of the issues. This is what the kids who overuse this term way too much call successful gaslighting. And again, you contrast that with her saying, I've already forgiven you. it's okay. Don't worry about it. And all of these things in order to elevate her. And to me, right here, this is one of the points that just really sticks out and comes off as incredibly odd, unusual, and honestly horrifying that this is just happening in front of a bunch of cameras. However, it got to the point where Zanab ended up accusing Netflix of editing out Cole's abuse and therefore implicating them in the abuse that occurred against her, trying to paint him out as a good guy.
This is all working out so wonderfully in your favor because they did not use it.
Oh my God.
But I'm not crazy. I'm not a pathological liar.
If you have it, please air it.
And this caused the producers over at Netflix to find this cuties interaction. And when it was played at the end of the show, it totally changed everything.
Please be almost 7 o'clock. Oh my gosh, the time is moving slowly. We can plan 2 weddings before this dinner reservation comes. I am glad that I asked about your family, though, because I just had this feeling that it was going to be like all of your family and none of mine. But now that I know that,
my guest list will absolutely complement yours.
Yeah. Your mom's side is all in England. How long of distances are they apart? Like 5 hours or something? Like, isn't it super cheap to fly within England? So we could fly them all to the same place in England?
I think we'd probably just do it in my mom's hometown, which is where all my cousins and my aunts and uncles live.
So that doesn't sound like a massive undertaking.
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be if we were having like a reception in England.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Now, you might be thinking right now at this point that this is boring. They're talking about family. They're talking about the order that they're going to visit their family in so that they can announce themselves as a couple. This is bland. This is uninteresting. However, I do want to note some of the body language here, the tone of voice, etc., because Zanab is already annoyed at this point. You can see it on her face, which is why I freeze-framed on this moment. Also, I have to break this up for copyright reasons, so this counts as me adding commentary for fair use.
Sometimes I wonder if you hear the words that I am saying.
You already know I don't listen half the time.
Facts. Did everybody hear that?
You just talk a lot of Cole.
I talk a lot of Cole?
Mm-hmm.
What does that even mean?
Like, a lot of it is just like you, like, either breaking out in song, dropping some bars.
So again, right here, you can tell even though Zanab is annoyed, Cole is not necessarily coming at this with bad intent. She just used his name as a synonym for talking trash, but he doesn't seem all that bothered by it, although I did freeze frame on a frame that makes him look really sinister. One of the side effects of having facial hair, when you have this hue of blue in your eyes.
Oh.
Killing oranges? Are you about to eat 2 of those?
Maybe. That's a serving. You okay with that?
You better save your appetito.
I've only had a banana
Talking
and
like-
a scoop of peanut butter today.
Big ol' sucker tonight.
So.
You only had a banana today?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Oh, I could
I offered
definitely
you
tell
a
you, but I
poke
probably
bowl.
shouldn't. I know you did, but we had that last night.
Oh, are you getting a wedding dress?
Something like that.
Wedding dress bod?
Yeah, that's right. This interaction, which was portrayed to all the members of the cast and told by them in this reunion as Cole trying to control this woman's diet so he could get her to be slim and fit and as attractive as he wants her to be, actually turned out to be a giant nothing burger. What we ended up seeing was that Cole was saying that she should save her appetite for the date because they're going to go out for a big steak. And for those of you who are unaware, this show actually took place in Dallas for this season. So what we ended up seeing here is that the cuties controversy is only controversial in the way that it was told, but also could be an example of 2 people getting something completely different from an interaction. However, one person framing their perception of that interaction in such a vicious way that it could ultimately lead to the destruction of another person.
Oh.
Killing oranges? Are you about to eat 2 of those?
Maybe. That's a serving. You
Better-
okay with that?
Now you could tell from her point of view, from her reaction, that she's immediately on the defense when it comes to this issue. The first thing she does is bring up the serving size related to the cuties as if she feels like this guy was attacking her based on how much she was eating. However, that's not what he was doing. He was just saying, we're going to go out to dinner later and you might want to save your appetite. And when she reveals to him that she had not been eating, he expresses concern for that and talks about how he offered her food earlier in the morning, but she said she didn't want to eat it because she had that food last night with him for dinner. So he offered her leftovers. She didn't want it. And he he interprets this as her trying to get into her wedding weight, which is something that women often try to do, not realizing that this person may be having some issues with food. However, even though she might have perceived this in such a way that would make Cole out to be a body shamer or whatever, if you watch this interaction from the objective view that is the camera, there is no way that he was doing that. This is one of those rare moments where we see a mundane, unedited piece of footage that was portrayed by one person as villainous, cut out by the producers at Netflix because they were trying to save this guy, when in reality, the reason it was cut out is because it was incredibly boring. And when you look at this, you realize that this woman is specifically going out of her way to take each and every interaction as harsh as possible, and rather than acknowledge that maybe two people can have a communication issue, she then tries to poison other people to agree with her, and in my mind, that's when you cross into the territory of malicious, because again, for 10 episodes, Cole was portrayed as this horrible, abusive guy who just says crazy things, who brings up unnecessary stuff, who tarnishes a woman's confidence, when in actuality, when you look at these interactions, you can see that they likely all started with her taking something small to heart the wrong way and turning it into a situation that left it to be interpreted later as some kind of an attack on Cole. And the edit was actually in her favor. So then you look back and you think about all those interactions where they were talking about the other people and ranking the other people, and you realize that Netflix likely cut out her repeatedly pestering and asking Cole how he felt about the other woman, how he would rank them, how he would rank her, and all of these other things. And I think that that is what led to some of the worst moments coming from Cole. And this is the reason why I wanted to make this video, because this is a perfect example that you should be able to take with you beyond reality television, which is just the most obvious version of this phenomenon, on how the person reporting the story, the person telling the story, the person curating the news or editing the story can present it in such a way to give you a prepackaged conclusion that you most likely will accept. If you look at the social media trends up until the last drop of the last couple of episodes of this series, you will find out that most people were on Zanab's side. Most people thought Cole was the villain because that's how he was portrayed in the editing bay. That's how he was portrayed by the clips that were shown to us. It was only when Zanab started to attack Netflix itself and they felt the need to defend themselves that they released the clip that she accused them of withholding in order to protect the abuser that was Cole. The whole edit was on her side. If she had not taken it to such extreme levels, we likely would have never known, and Cole would have likely had the rest of his life ruined based on the bad edit that he received. And other reality stars have talked about how they receive terrible edits due to the fact that they have poor relationships with production that ultimately ended up following them decades later, because yes, reality television has been on for such a long time, into their lives, costing them jobs and all sorts of other opportunities. And Cole was going to be one of those people. But it turns out what we saw underneath it all was the mundane. We saw somebody who has a ton of baggage, who takes everything ultra harshly due to the fact that she has her own insecurities, and who seeks validation externally and participates in toxic behavior by trying to rally people on her side based on her skewed perspective of events. So we ended up with a villain, and because of all the biases in our society towards women, we ended up all getting on board with it, the people that were watching in general. I understand that most of you didn't watch this, and that created a situation where this guy, who seemed actually pretty genuine, maybe a little dumb, maybe a little bit too blunt, was basically destroyed, and he came in completely emotionally devastated to the reunion, and this is the result. And it was all based not on what happened, but how it was presented to us out there in the audience, how it was presented to the other castmates by Zanab, who apparently took every and any opportunity to throw this guy under the bus in order to set herself up for success, in order to make herself as somebody who is the perpetual victim in this scenario, in order to improve her stock, because make no mistake, people people largely join these shows in later seasons in order to raise their own profile. Now look, I want to get your guys' take on this whole situation. Did you watch the series? What was your take on these characters? Or did you get all your information from me? Are you on Zanab's side? Do you think that even though the interaction seems rather mundane and totally explainable, her weird interpretation and her decision to tell everybody about her skewed perspective in this situation was totally justified? Or do you think that the producers over at Netflix were in on a way to make this guy out to be the villain and ultimately ended up being undermined by the fact that they ended up backing such a toxic character? I want to know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about a reality TV show. Till next time.